Good evening and welcome to the Newshour Agenda. I'm Madhavdas G. Bangladesh has seen some dramatic turn of events today as violent protests against quota for family members of freedom fighters snowballed and forced the ouster of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Hasina resigned and flew to India. She landed at the Hindon Air Base in the national capital region, but her stay in India is expected to be temporary. Sources say she's likely to leave for London next. After she fled, Bangladesh Army Chief announced that the army will take over the reins of the country and an interim government will be formed.
সেখানে আমরা সিদ্ধান্ত নিয়েছি যে একটা ইন্টারিম গভর্নমেন্ট আমরা ফর্ম করব এবং ইন্টারিম গভর্নমেন্টের মাধ্যমে এই দেশের সমস্ত কার্যকলাপ চলবে। আমরা এখন মহামান্য রাষ্ট্রপতির কাছে যাব যে এই ইন্টারিম গভর্নমেন্ট ফর্মের ব্যাপারে ওনার সাথে আলাপ আলোচনা করে আমরা একটা ইন্টারিম গভর্নমেন্ট ফর্ম করে দেশ পরিচালনা করব।
The neighboring nation saw some unprecedented scenes. Angry protesters stormed the Prime Minister's residence in Dhaka and resorted to loot, vandalism and ransacking. Videos emerged which showed the mob watching TV, taking down portraits, enjoying food and even relaxing in Sheikh Hasina's bedroom. Pictures also surfaced from the Bangladesh parliament showing the mob resorting to vandalism and appearing to set off what looked like a smoke bomb. The aftershocks of Bangladesh tremors were felt in India as well. Security has been tightened outside the Bangladesh High Commission in Delhi. The BSF has issued a high alert along the India-Bangladesh border, and the BSF DG has also reached Kolkata. Train and flight operations to Bangladesh have been affected too, while train service to Bangladesh has been stopped. Indigo and Air India have halted flights to the crisis-hit nation. Amidst turmoil in Dhaka, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is expected to give a statement on the issue in Parliament tomorrow.
This is the office of Bangladesh High Commission, and here you can see that the barricades have been put at gate number 1, in fact at both the sides, keeping in mind the security and the kind of situation that Bangladesh is going through right now. The situation over there is very much critical, very volatile, and the police personnel have also been deployed over here, and this particular area from where the vehicles are passing, this area has been as of now cordoned off. Bangladesh High Commission.
Crisis in Bangladesh also sparked a political fight in India, with opposition finding in it another opportunity to sharpen the Tanashahi attack against the Modi government. AAP MP Sanjay Singh took to X to say that those who do Tanashahi or dictatorship will have to flee the country. Samajwadi Party leader IP Singh tweeted and said that Tanashahi ultimately comes to an end. And then there was a post put out by Mehbooba Mufti's daughter Iltija Mufti. She shared visuals from July 2022 when protesters stormed into the president's house in Sri Lanka and were seen swimming in the president's pool. Sharing that video, Iltija asks, and I quote, "Does Lok Kalyan Marg have a swimming pool as well?"
देखिए, ये इस बात का संकेत है कि तानाशाही जो है वो किसी भी देश में अच्छी बात नहीं है। वहाँ भी इसी तरीके से विपक्ष के लोगों को पकड़ पकड़ के जेल में डाला गया। जो चुनाव हुआ था वहाँ आपने देखा ही था कि कैसे चुनाव हुआ था, सारे विपक्ष ने बायकॉट किया था। तो मुझे लगता है ये एक सबक है पूरी दुनिया के लिए कि ऐसे जो शासन है वो ज़्यादा लंबे चलते नहीं।
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Let's take this right across to our guest. Joining us is Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow of the ORF. We have Gargi Nandi Roy, political analyst. Join us. Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, is with us. Professor Manojit Mandal is also a political analyst joining us. Let me start first and foremost with you, Tehseen Poonawala. Let me begin by asking you this. It's all very well, political opposition, drawing parallels, perhaps everything's fair game. But when we compare the situation domestically in India to what's happening in Bangladesh, it just appears to be extremely unsavory. Look at the kind of violence, look at the kind of deaths that have taken place. And we are a country where, there is this kind of violent transfer of power. We've had elections for the past over 7 decades, and it has always been a peaceful transfer of power, never like this. Why draw these parallels like we're seeing several political leaders and spokespersons do?
Thank you, Madhav. Thank you so much for having me on the show. At the onset, what happened in Bangladesh is something that should be very, very worrisome to India as a nation. And I do hope that the Honorable Prime Minister just had a cabinet meeting does brief the opposition on this as well. It is extremely important that he does that, because Bangladesh has been our closest friend, our closest neighbor, particularly Sheikh Hasina. It is appalling that India did not do enough for Sheikh Hasina, and I feel that it's terrible. But now India should not be dragged into this mess with Bangladesh or try to get too much into this. Now to the issue of what is being personally alleged. Look, something Mahatma Gandhi said, and I'm just going to quote that. Remember that all through history, there have been dictators and tyrants, and for a time they seem invincible. But in the end, they always fall. Always. Sheikh Hasina dreamt of an opposition-mukt Bangladesh. She called those protesting against her government as tyrants, as foreign-inspired, as terrorists. Violence was used against opposition. While opposition was put in jail, students who were protesting were called anti-nationals and put into jail. Ultimately, it seemed it was her way or the highway, and that's not how democracies run. Sheikh Hasina had a golden opportunity from 2009 to transfer Bangladesh into a liberal democracy. She ended up becoming more and more authoritarian. I think that's a lesson not for India, but for every democracy across the world, that people in power should be liberal, have a big heart, and not become authoritarian.
There's a contradiction. There's a very inherent contradiction in what you just said. On the one hand, you're accusing her of becoming authoritarian, and on the other hand, you're accusing India of not doing enough for her. You can't have both the arguments at the same time, Tehseen.
I can, because India is my country. And if she's my friend, she's my friend. I will deal with her. She was my best friend. Sheikh Hasina was India's best friend in the neighborhood. And the problem is, if BNP comes to power, they are going to be cozy up to China and Pakistan. BNP is closer to China and Pakistan. So India had to sort of be there for her when it required. Now that this mess has happened, let us secure our borders, take care of our country. Let's not now get into this mess. We could have done it long ago. India should have helped her ease the situation.
Let me bring in the other point of view. Sushant Sareen, do you think it's that simple? It's very well to come out and say that, those who are friendly towards me, I will help them, so on and so forth. But, you can't on the one hand say that a person is being tyrannical, authoritarian or dictator-like, and then say, no, I should have actually supported that person. How do both those arguments, go parallelly?
No, what I can't understand in what Tehseen is saying is that India did not do enough. What would he have had us do? Send the Indian army? Clearly, but we were not going to do that. We had Sheikh Hasina. We might have had some problems, maybe in the way we thought she was running a country. And to that extent, I agree that she had kind of shut off all, democratic channels of people expressing their views. And that was a problem. That was increasingly a problem. But look at it from an Indian point of view. Indian foreign policy point of view. For the first time in 15 years, for the last 15 years rather, you had a government which was ready to address India's very serious security concerns about terrorists operating from Bangladeshi soil in India. Sheikh Hasina did crack down on them, and that led to a flowering of the relationship between India and Bangladesh. And over the last 15 years, there were many projects and many developments which have taken place, which have been good for Bangladesh and which have been good for India as well. So for anybody to claim that India did not do enough, what exactly do you mean by it? Secondly, look, frankly, there's nothing profound in what Mahatma Gandhi said. It's not only dictators who fall, even Democrats fall. People, after some time, people lose elections. And then for anybody to compare what happens in India with what happened around the region, where elections are rigged and all kinds of things happen. In India, for example, Madhav, we all know that everybody was talking about BJP getting 350, 400 seats. But when the elections were free and fair and the election results were came out, we all saw what happened. People were allowed to vote. People voted the way they wanted to do. Nobody questioned the verdict of the people. Everybody accepted it. The opposition accepted it. The government accepted it. And life has gone on as normal. If, for example, the government had lost the election and the opposition alliance had been able to cobble together the numbers to form a government, there would have been a peaceful transition in India. Nobody would have stuck onto it, to power. Secondly, even in the states, we see governments coming and governments going. There are constant changes. There are some states where there are pogroms which take place against people who vote for an opposition party. But by and large in India, democracy is successful, which means that people
But that's
get an
not
outlet.
desirable. I
think that was blocked in Bangladesh.
No, obviously nobody is going to say that any kind of pogrom in any state.
It's okay if you want to score a political.
Sushant, I get your point about EVMs and about changing elections, but I think, referring to pogroms so casually, I would just refrain from that. But let me bring in Professor Monajit Mandal on this. Professor Monajit Mandal, here's the thing. Even the most trenchant critics of the EVMs who are, all kinds of doomsday scenarios that have been painted, and perhaps every election, and even in this 2024 election, we've seen a heated battle as far as EVMs and the entire electoral process is concerned. But even they, once the results came, they stopped harping on that tune. The point being made over here is, A, there is no comparison to be drawn, and B, given the fact that we've seen what Mamata Banerjee has said, that she will give shelter to Bangladeshi refugees, criticizing her. All right, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm told Sheikh Hasina's son, Joy, is joining us on the broadcast at this moment. Let's quickly cut across live to him. I'm going to ask my panelists to just hold on with us. All right. Joy, if you can hear me, sir, your reaction, have you heard from Sheikh Hasina? Have you been able to speak to her? What is the information coming in, Joy?
Yes, I have spoken to her. I spoke to her earlier today. She is safe. She's obviously in India. And thanks to your government. What can I say? She is very, very disappointed. She has worked so hard to turn the country around from what used to be a failing country, a corrupt country, a country of violence, and she has turned it into a middle-income state. It was considered a nation tiger. Last few elections, we have won by a landslide, and all our opinion polls showed we would win by a landslide, so we have popular support. Unfortunately, this is the minority, the vocal minority that has been using the student movement as an excuse to overthrow the government, and finally they've succeeded.
Right. Sajeeb Wazed, Joy, let me also ask you, at the moment we are seeing a situation where there is a all-party government that is expected to come into power. You've also been told that we saw the formal announcement by the army chief that he would be sort of taking control of the situation there. Are there any real fears, A, when you look at the military taking over and the possibility of radical elements also getting a stake in the power there in Bangladesh?
Yes, I don't think the military wants to take over. I don't think the military wants to stay in power. The Bangladesh military is much more professional now. But the main concern is the radical element. What they're trying to do now, the country's in a state of anarchy, but more importantly, BNP Jamaat are hunting down all our party activists and leaders. And so what they want is, even if when there are elections, that the Awami League is crippled or cannot participate. And if that is because Awami League remains the largest party, Awami League remains popular. And so in a free and fair election, I think the Awami League would win again, and that is what they want to prevent. And if that happens, if the Awami League is somehow blocked from participating or crippled from participating, then of course Jamaat BNP will come to power, in which case, Bangladesh will become radicalized again. And there will no doubt be attacks on minorities. In fact, attacks have already started on minorities in Bangladesh.
Right, that really, of course, is a huge concern over here. What are you hearing as far as these attacks? Is it limited to certain pockets? Are there places of worship? Is it something that's happening at large? What is the information that you have on this aspect, Joy?
No, so far it has been nationwide. A lot of infrastructure has been attacked. A lot of homes, mostly people's homes, have been attacked. Of course, a lot of our party leaders' homes have been attacked. Parliament has been ransacked. Factories, you name it. Anything associated with the Awami League or minorities has been attacked so far.
Right. One of the criticisms coming in from Bangladesh also is that there are those observers who are coming out to say that the elections were not fully free and fair. The allegations of the last election being rigged. How do you respond to these charges?
Those are completely baseless.
What would you say to those who are making those claims? Sajeeb Wazed, can you hear me? All right, I think we've lost that line there with Sajeeb Wazed. Joy. All right, and I'm told at the moment we're joined by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus. He's with us on the broadcast. Thank you so much, Mr. Yunus, for joining us here on Times Now. Let me begin by asking you, at the time of this kind of deepening crisis in your country, we have seen the former Prime Minister, now Sheikh Hasina, leave the country. Are you concerned with the kind of uncertainty that exists at the moment?
No, we are celebrating that finally we came to the point with the jubilant crowd on the streets, enjoying the freedom they finally earned after many deaths of the young people, young kids, older people, lots of people every day, every hour. So that's a celebration there. It's like a jubilation that we had during the Liberation War. There's a Liberation Day today, second Liberation Day. So that's the kind of festivity that's going on right now.
No, but all of this has happened after weeks of protests, over 100 lives being lost. There are police stations that have been burnt down. There are minorities whose homes are being targeted. Surely the situation from the law and order perspective is far from desirable?
You are looking at something from one side. You're not looking at all the young people demonstrating. They're getting killed every day. It's the government bullet hitting them. They brought the police, they brought the paramilitary, they brought the military, they got curfew, they have everything. And then in that you're saying that they are doing everything else. They're saving their life was the most important thing for them. While the government is shooting at innocent people. They have curfew days after day. They had the shoot to kill to order for everybody, from police, paramedical, army, and also the army itself. So that's the situation they have emerged from. They continued their march on the street. They continued their struggle to make sure they're successful. Finally, they changed their in a desperate way. They said, only way we can succeed, Hasina must go. So they became one point demand, and then finally Hasina has to go.
Right. One of the images of Sheikh Mujib's statue being vandalized is on the screen. I don't know if you can see that, but that was perhaps one of the strongest images. How did things come to such a pass that a national hero actually has this kind of vandalization of his statue taking place?
Yes, that's what I've been telling. I said, Hasina has made people's minds so bitter. They now even attack her father. So it's the bitterness which accumulated among the people now expressing them, because finally she left, so they have to express that. So it is the fault of the person who created this environment for.
Right. From India's perspective, Sheikh Hasina, of course, physically present here in India. You've been critical of India in the past, but what are your expectations from India at the moment?
I keep saying that India is our best friend, have the possibility of becoming a best friend, but instead they focused on not on Bangladesh, they focused on one person. So their relationship became one-person relationship. This is a wrong relationship. Now that Hasina has failed in doing things for the people, so the people are angry at India because you are supporting the person who destroyed our life. So we have to go back, and I urge Indian policymakers to redesign your policy, whether you want to again find the person to support or a country to support, people of the country to support. This is very important thing, because we item after item we saw India is focusing on the person.
Right. But India's concern has arisen from some very, very real fears. And the fact is that the BNP, the Jamaat-e-Islami, have not been on very good terms with India. And from India's perspective, Sheikh Hasina has also cracked down on terror insurgents from northeast who had been using Bangladeshi soil, for instance, to regroup. And with her now out of power, how can India really trust the next government to be equally cooperative in that regard?
So you have to find another person to support? Is that it? Is this the policy now?
No, I'm just asking you, in terms of what India's experience has been, how would you explain that position to India?
I will explain your relationship with the people of Bangladesh. Let them choose their leaders. You work with the leaders. That's how the people are connected. And our relationship should be the best of the relationship. We are the best of friends, rather than being looking at each other in a kind of suspicion.
Right. Are the fears that there may be a rise in radicalism in Bangladesh, are in there any way fears that could come true in your view?
With Hasina gone, radicalism will disappear probably.
All right.
She encouraged the radicalism to encourage India to support her.
Okay, that's your perspective, certainly. But I must also ask you, Sheikh Hasina's government had also charge sheeted you on various charges. Would you say that these were merely political cases, because there have been graft allegations, etc., that have been leveled even as far as recently as February this year? The anti-graft agency there in Bangladesh had charge sheeted you on a fresh corruption charge in a case for violating labor laws. How do you look at all these actions of the Sheikh Hasina government?
I have denied all those charges. These are fake charges just to harass me, because I am #1 enemy for her all her life. So she continues to harass me in every possible way. This is only expression of one. There are hundreds of other things she has been doing if you look through the relationship between me and her.
Right. And while you spoke about, the protesters being targeted by the police, there's one question that I had asked you which you had not answered, sir, because we are getting reports of temples being attacked, of religious minorities being targeted in Bangladesh.
Yeah, this is again something Hasina feeds you so that you can get attracted to us in a negative way. So this is her people, young people are busy on the street. They're not burning temples. Many of these leaders of the student community are Hindu students. They are not all Muslim students. So they are the partners. They are the one working together day and night, taking shots in their chest. They are all religions. They are not saying go and burn the temples. This is just to distract you so that you can support her.
So are you completely denying that any minority has been targeted in Bangladesh? That these are all completely fake reports? That there has been no attack on any minority?
In a fair country, you investigate, you take the person in task in violation of law.
No, but is that happening or not? It's a simple question.
I'm an expert. I don't follow those things. I'm not someone who...
Because you just said that that's propaganda being spread by Sheikh Hasina. In that light, I'm asking you, sir, because there are a number of reports on social media. I'm not vouching for their veracity, but can we just brush them aside?
Don't brush them aside. Just go and investigate, find out the real situation. Because she says all kinds of things. She does it herself and then blame it to somebody else. That's the style she has been developing.
All right, Muhammad Yunus, thank you so much for taking the time and speaking to us here on Times Now.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
All right, let's take this right back to our guests joining us. We have Professor Monajit Mandal and Gargi Nandiroy also with us. Professor Mandal, simple question, sir. At the end of the day, do not compare our systems. Before we broke out of this particular debate, we had Sushant Sareen saying that we have a very, very evolved, comparatively democratic system when you look at Bangladesh. And also, in the past, we've seen Mamata Banerjee come out and saying that she's going to give shelter to Bangladeshi refugees. We've seen the Ministry of External Affairs criticize her. There's even been a note verbal that has been issued from the side of Bangladesh. Clearly, somewhere or the other, there is a mixing of domestic politics with international affairs.
No, I think we have debated about Mamata's humanitarian gesture to the people of Bangladesh, the people who have relatives in this side of the borders, and there are plenty, and I debated with that on your television show. There's nothing really, political or strategic about that particular comment. And at the same time, she said that government of India will take the final call. Even today also, she said the same thing. It is the government of India who has to take the final call, and she will support the government of India. But my question is, what did the government of India do? The previous panelists were talking about what the government of India should have done. You shouldn't have done, shouldn't have said Bangladesh as the country of the Ghuspettiyas. The Bangladesh is a terrible Islamic country. That's one of the narratives on which you had actually built CAA. On the other hand, you also talked about developmental projects, the friendship with Hasina. I think Muhammad Yunus, to a large extent, was spot on when he said that you actually preferred only one leader, not the people of Bangladesh. Did not understand their aspirations, and you had the narrative. Bangladesh, in fact, became one of the favorite narratives of many of your elections, including in 2019, 2021, and 2024. Look at the kind of statement that Mr. Amit Shah made. All those termites, the Ghuspettiyas. I think you must remember that. So the fact remains that you did not really do enough for the friendly nations that you had beside you. In fact, if I criticize the government because this is my government too, you are actually at one antagonizing other friendly neighbors as well, including Nepal.
Let me bring in Gargi Nandi Roy on that point. Gargi Nandi Roy, okay, got your point, sir. Got your point. Let me put the two questions across that you have raised. One is that you've taken a person-centric approach rather than a people-centric approach when it comes to Bangladesh. And B, the BJP is equally guilty of politicizing such issues when you refer to termites, so on and so forth. These are extremely hard positions to be taken when it comes to a neighbor. Please respond, Gargi Nandi Roy.
Yeah, thank you, Madhav, for inviting. See, Madhav, firstly, though, I have seen those tweets comparing Modi ji with what happened with Bangladesh, and those are deplorable comments. We know we are an evolved democracy. We have seen the results. Now, Sheikh Hasina undoubtedly has been a good friend of India. And one thing is that she did suppress the radical elements in Bangladesh. And those people who are saying today, these are student protesters, Madhav, we have seen the scenes, right? So are these student protesters? And the quota thing was resolved by Supreme Court on 21st July, the Bangladesh Supreme Court. They have already given 93% on merit basis. So why this should have stopped? So what I have felt that this is the garb of a student movement. It's been a takeover by Jamaati and jihadis and some foreign deep state playing a role, because we have seen the videos coming from Noakhali and Narayanganj. Hindus are attacked. Have you heard the slogan, Madhav? The slogan is Bharat Jader Mamar Bari Bangla Charo Taratari. Means those whose maternal uncle's house is India, leave Bangladesh. And then the Maulana saying by 2040 only Islam will be there. And we have seen statues coming down. Even Ravindranath's statue was attacked. A communist leader, Hindu communist leader Pradeep Bhaumik was killed. The Supreme Court judge's house was attacked. The Supreme Court only resolved the quota issue. So do you think these are protesters who are students? We have seen them snatching saris and this kind of vandalizing. No, there's some foreign deep state which played a role. She may have been a tyrant or whatever, but one thing, under her the GDP did grow. Under her the culture, cricket grew. And she has been a good friend of India. And yes, India should be alarmed by seeing this, because we know the opposition party leaders, they are in hand in gloves with deep state of foreign deep state. Okay, I have seen Sanjay Singh's tweet. You know, these people are tweeting like this. It is so deplorable, because without a deep state involvement, this cannot happen. And Madhav, why I'm saying that India should be alarmed, because what we are seeing in Kashmir, rise of new terror groups. These are the like enterprise. It's kind of a Muslim Brotherhood enterprise.
Okay, let me put that question back to Professor Mondal. Professor Mondal, at the end of the day, you're repeating what happened when in 2022, the Sri Lanka turmoil also, we saw opposition criticize the government and predict India also is headed in the same direction. You know, end of the day, whether those comments were provocative or not, what Gargi Nandi Roy seems to suggest is that you're playing into the hands of the deep state.
No, I think let me dispel this doubt about India going Bangladesh or Sri Lanka way. It will not simply go, because fundamentals of Indian democracy are far stronger than either of these states. In fact, the whole of South Asia, if you compare the fundamentals of Indian democracy that started taking place, I think 100 years back, I mean, with all those illustrious writers, poets, politicians leading up to the Constituent Assembly. So I think that's not the case at all. Our worries are very simple. I mean, look at the kind of irresponsible statement my previous speaker made. Rabindranath's statue was being vandalized. Show me the pictures of that kind of statement. Why do you spread fake news? You should all be quite responsible at this point in time. One of the very respected figures of South Asia just spoke on your television saying that those things are not happening. Please. This is the problem. This is the problem with this dispensation that BJP is.
Nobody is interrupting you. Make your point. Conclude. Please conclude, Professor Mandal.
Look at this. Can we have a civilized debate, for God's sake? Can we have a civilized debate, for God's sake?
Continue.
It's a very serious issue. I mean, there is every possibility. There is a possibility of opposition, the vested interest taking over such movements led by the students. But those horrified images, 10-15 days back, when students are being shot at with just lathis on their head and they are throwing their arms and students are being shot at. I mean, those are the pictures that really go down is deep in the memory of people. The Hasina government should have done better, to talk to the students. I mean, look at the number of students who were killed on the streets of Dhaka in broad daylight. I mean, how can you ignore that? There are possibilities.
Let me ask Gargi a simple question. Gargi Nandi Roy, you know what's happening in the context of Bangladesh today, whatever be the truth, the fact is that we are surrounded in a very, very volatile neighborhood. You have Pakistan on one side, you have Nepal, you have Maldives, you have Sri Lanka, and now you have Bangladesh additionally. So there will be a question about whether there is a pattern. Of course, what's beyond India's boundaries, perhaps India has limited control over, but the opposition is repeatedly questioning India's handling of its own neighborhood diplomatically.
India, then what would have India done? India would have sent the army. It could not have done that, na? And see, when Monojita is questioning me, yes, dying of anybody's death is sad. But the thing is, what I'm saying, the Supreme Court resolved the quota issue. Then why this kind of violence we see? Because here also we have been seeing the seeding of this narrative of fascism, launching of human rights group. These are all part of some kind of a deep state conspiracy. That's why I drew that analogy, Madhav. And since Hasina is there, he supports Congress. Madhav, in 2023, Rahul Gandhi visited Uzbekistan and met Samantha Power. And there was talks that maybe he's trying to do some collaboration with US deep state for a regime change. And when this kind of collaboration happens, we know this kind of violent action happens on the state.
Okay. We have limited time, but quick responses. Quick responses from Tehseen and Sushant, please. Tehseen, quick response, allegation coming in of opposition hobnobbing with a foreign deep state. Quick response.
I am astounded that on Times Now, the country's #1 news channel, such irresponsible statements are made about a leader of opposition. And this is precisely the problem. We can be on different sides of the fence. My opening statement was, I hope my Prime Minister addresses the opposition. But you guys keep calling the opposition anti-national, want to destroy the country. This is the goddamn problem. Anyone who has a different point of view is anti-national, deep state, wants to destroy the country, wants to throw people out of power. I mean, can we stop this? We have a problem in our neighborhood. Rather than discussing it maturely, Rahul Gandhi met the deep state, wanted to throw India out. What rubbish on national TV without any evidence. And on Sunday, 90 people were killed on Sunday in Bangladesh. On Sunday, this is day before yesterday. What are we talking about?
Sushant Sareen, this is all ridiculous. It's a figment of imagination. This is an irresponsible commentary coming in from certain panelists. Do you agree with Tehseen?
Look, I don't want to get into the Indian political scene. I think what is important is to do a fact check on what that guy Muhammad Yunus was saying. You know, I'm appalled with the kind of dissemble he has indulged in on your show. For him to deny that pogroms of Hindus are taking place in Bangladesh, I don't know whether he's living in Bangladesh or he's living in cloud cuckoo land. There is visual evidence coming out of Bangladesh, temples being burnt, families being attacked, all kinds of things happening, and he's saying nothing is happening. Bangladesh is a country which had about 24% Hindu population as late as 1970-71. Today it's 8%. Where have those people gone? Somebody should explain to us now. Then this entire nonsense which these guys have started spreading, that, you know, some comments were made. Has relations between India and Bangladesh gone back because a comment which is a normal colloquial expression, Deemak ki tarah chaat gaye, when translated into English, becomes a racist comment? Now, people should understand when languages are translated into other languages, the connotations change. But the original connotation was in the Hindi language. And finally, Madhav, one more point which I wanted to make. This whole nonsense about India should deal with the people and not with a person. If that person is elected by the people, as Sheikh Hasina was in 2009, who do you deal with? Do you deal with the people or with the person? The person is the government. Person is of the government. Now, if you start dealing with people without reference to the person in power, then what are you trying to do? Are you not interfering in another country?
All right.
You have to deal with whoever is in power. Whoever
we'll have to leave it there. Sushant,
will deal with them.
All right. Fair point, Sushant. We'll have to leave it there. That's why, of course, it's a debate. It's a debate. Certainly, we're going to continue seeing over the next few days, perhaps given the kind of scale of the unfortunate events that we've seen transpire in Bangladesh. But Sushant Sareen, Gargi Nandi Roy, Tehseen Poonawala, Professor Monojit Bandal, thanks so much for joining us this evening.